Late Tuesday night, Beef-a-Roo employees received an email from Elysian Capital Human Resources. Effective today, a company-wide layoff.
WFR reporter Daniel Burbank spoke with a former general manager who says he just wants to pay his bills.
Yeah, 26 stores across several states are directly impacted by the layoffs. Guy Cox, a former general manager, says he's worried about paying his electric bill. Now, our photographer traveled to several Beef-a-Roo locations across Rockford. All the doors are locked and signs on the front door say closed until further notice.
They should have let us know sooner.
Guy Cox, the former general manager of a Beef-a-Roo in Lebanon, Indiana, says he's searching for another job.
I have a disconnect notice for my lights. It's due tomorrow, and my truck payment's due tomorrow as well. So, now I'm just trying to rush around to get stuff done.
Cox adds he took money out of his own pocket to help employees pay their bills and buy diapers. He says he's worried about the people on work release from jail. Some could face penalties for not having a job while on release. Cammie, the Lebanon assistant general manager, is one of those people in a work release program who says thankfully she has a backup position.
They don't care. Promising us all these checks, but they don't care. They're still getting paid. They say they're not, but I fully believe that they are.
Employees sent us emails appearing to be from the venture capital and private equity Elysian Capital Incorporated that owns more than 24 Beef-a-Roo locations, including all Rockford, Loves Park, Roscoe, and McChesney Park restaurants. Employees were told severe financial constraints made it impossible for the company to continue operations. I called Elysian Capital.
Please press 22 to speak with our receptionist.
No one came to the phone, so I tried calling the extension number for Human Resources and Beef-a-Roo's president.
The person at extension is unavailable.
According to a 2024 press release from a franchise strategy group, Beef-a-Roo's newest container-shaped locations only needed 3 to 4 employees. Cox says his store had more than 10 employees. He says other non-modular locations have up to 20. It's difficult to know the exact number of employees impacted because Elysian Capital Incorporated and Beef-a-Roo are not publicly traded companies. They are not required to publish revenue or the amount of people employed. Now, Beef-a-Roo Freeport is locally owned and not impacted by the layoffs. The store owner previously told us they are very saddened by the recent closures. According to emails appearing to be from Elysian Capital Human Resources, final paychecks, including any wages owed in accordance with applicable law, will be issued as quickly as possible once funding becomes available. It's not clear when or if payments will happen, but we'll keep pushing for answers on what led to Beef-a-Roo's seemingly abrupt closure.
This is not the first time Beef-a-Roo has allegedly not paid its bills. A 2024 lawsuit claimed the company owed more than $458,000 in unpaid rent at several Rockford, Loves Park, Roscoe, and McChesney Park locations.
At last check, Beef-a-Roo or its corporate owner has not filed for bankruptcy. It's also not clear how much money Beef-a-Roo owes vendors, utilities, and staff. If Elysian Capital or Beef-a-Roo's president responds, we will, of course, update the story.